There is a certain kind of person who lives with a constant, invisible pressure inside their chest. A tightening, a subtle fear, a need to clarify every action they take. They explain why they responded late. They justify why they said no. They send messages that are 3 times longer than necessary because silence feels dangerous. They apologize before anyone even gets the chance to misunderstand them. They replay conversations in their mind long after they are over, analyzing every word, every pause, every tone. They fear that someone, somewhere, is upset with them. They fear being misunderstood more than they fear being exhausted. And so they explain, again and again, even when no one asked. This story is for the people who know that feeling intimately. The people who cannot rest until every misunderstanding is cleared, every possible misinterpretation smoothed out, every emotional loose end tied neatly. The people who walk through life with a quiet dread of being judged unfairly. The people who fear the weight of someone's disappointment or irritation more than the weight of suppressing their own needs. The chronic It usually begins quietly, not in adulthood, but long before that. Maybe you grew up in a home where mistakes were not allowed, a place where the smallest error led to anger or punishment. Maybe someone in your life was unpredictable. Their reactions fluctuated wildly, and the only way to stay safe was to explain yourself before the explosion came. You learned early that if you could justify your actions well enough, you might avoid the storm. You became skilled at anticipating blame before it arrived. You learned that clarity could be a shield and justification could be a survival tactic. Or maybe it was not fear, but guilt. You were raised to believe that your feelings were inconveniences, that your needs were burdens, that your decisions needed approval, that your existence needed constant softening. You apologized for things that were not your fault. You overcompensated to avoid upsetting anyone. You felt responsible for other people's emotions. And somewhere along the way, you came to believe that you had to earn comfort, earn peace, earn understanding, that you needed to explain why you deserved any of it. But here is the darker truth. Over-explaining is not just a habit, it is a trauma response. It is the instinctive behavior of someone who learned that being misunderstood is dangerous, that being misinterpreted leads to conflict or rejection, that if they do not defend themselves every second, someone will assume the worst of them. Over-explainers are not dramatic. They are not insecure for no reason. They are people who have lived to many moments where their truth was twisted, ignored, or punished. When this pattern follows you into adulthood, it becomes part of your identity. You begin narrating your actions in real time. You overcommunicate because silence feels unsafe. You justify things as simple as your tone of voice, or why you need space, or why you changed your mind. You feel the need to explain, even when the other person isn't upset. You over-anticipate reactions that never come. You are constantly on guard, constantly taking responsibility for things outside your control. The psychology behind this is rooted in Your nervous system is trained to scan for danger, not physical danger, but emotional danger. Judgment, rejection, disapproval. You try to intercept every possible misunderstanding before it has the chance to harm you. You try to manage the entire emotional landscape of every conversation. You try to make sure no one ever views you as selfish or careless or rude, and this creates an exhausting double life. On the outside, you look thoughtful or polite. People think you are considerate, empathetic.com. But on the inside, you are fighting a war. You are terrified of disappointing someone. You are terrified of being the villain in someone else's story. You are terrified that others will assume motives you never had. You are terrified of being misread, mislabeled, or misjudged. So you speak, explain, clarify, defend. You repeat yourself just to feel safe. The irony is painful. You explain yourself to feel understood. Yet the more you explain, the less understood you feel. You think that if you share your intentions clearly enough, people will finally see you accurately. But chronic justification has a dark side. It makes people think you are unsure of yourself. It makes them think your decisions are shaky. It makes them think you are always on the verge of guilt. They do not realize that your explanations are not insecurity about your actions, but fear of their reactions. People who do not live with this pattern rarely understand it. They think you are being dramatic when you over-clarify something simple. They think you are being overly apologetic when nothing is wrong. They think you care too much about things that do not matter. They assume your explanations mean you did something wrong. They do not see the years of conditioning that taught you to explain everything or risk emotional fallout. There is a hidden resentment that grows inside a quiet bitterness toward themselves for not being stronger, a frustration with how easily they bend to avoid conflict, a sense of helplessness from feeling responsible for interpretations they cannot control. a deep sadness that they cannot simply exist without justification, a longing to be one of those people who speak plainly and do not worry about whether others misread them. But resentment is dangerous when it has nowhere to go, and for chronic over-explainers, it almost never has a place to land. Inside you, there is a voice that is constantly saying, "Please do not get the wrong idea about me. Please do not think I am careless. Please do not think I am cold. Please do not think I am ungrateful. Please do not think I meant harm." This desperation to be perceived correctly is not vanity, it is fear. Fear that misunderstanding will lead to abandonment. Fear that your worth depends on how well you present yourself. Fear that, if you do not explain everything perfectly, people will fill in the gaps with something hurtful. But the real breaking point comes when you start feeling trapped by your own explanations. You begin noticing how tired you are, how drained you feel after simple interactions, how your instinct to defend yourself has become automatic. You notice that your body tenses before you speak. You notice that conversations feel like minefields. You notice that even when people reassure you, you do not fully believe them. You notice that you keep explaining even when they say everything is fine, and you start realizing that the problem is not the world. It is the fear living inside you. The moment of collapse often comes quietly. Maybe you finally get tired of talking so much. Maybe you send a message and resist the urge to clarify it. Maybe you realize your explanations are not changing anything. Maybe you feel the first spark of anger that you have spent your whole life defending yourself against threats that no longer exist. Maybe you feel the grief of understanding that the people who taught you to over-explain are not even in your life anymore, but their voices still live inside you. This is where healing begins. When you understand that the danger is not real anymore, that misunderstanding is survivable, that conflict is not fatal, that not everyone thinks the worst of you, that your worth is not shaped by someone's assumptions, that silence does not mean you did something wrong, that your body has been reacting to old memories, not current circumstances. Healing from chronic over-explaining does not mean swinging to the opposite extreme. It does not mean becoming cold or detached. It does not mean shutting down. It means learning to choose your words instead of spilling them out of fear. It means letting a misunderstanding breathe instead of suffocating it with explanations. It means replacing apology with clarity. It means allowing people to interpret you without rushing to correct their thoughts. It means trusting that the people meant for you will not abandon you, simply because you misspoke, or hesitated, or acted imperfectly. The truth is that you do not owe anyone a performance of constant self-defense. You do not need to narrate your existence. You do not need to justify every emotion. You do not need to explain why you are tired or why you need space or why you changed your mind. You are allowed to exist without permission. You are allowed to be misunderstood. You are allowed to let people have their own thoughts. You are allowed to take up emotional space without shrinking. People who love you do not need a thesis statement every time you speak. They do not need your intentions wrapped in protective explanations. They do not need your voice filtered through fear. They need you, the real you, the one who can speak simply without panicking, the one who does not assume guilt automatically, the one who can trust their own decisions without defending them, the one who does not feel like every action is a potential crime. Here is the truth you have been avoiding. You explain yourself because you think it prevents pain, but all it has ever done is prolong anxiety. You justify your choices because you think it creates understanding, but all it has ever done is create exhaustion. You defend your intentions because you think it earns love, but love was never supposed to require self-sacrifice. You have spent too many years trying to control how others see you. You have spent too many nights overthinking why you said something. You have given too much energy to fears that were planted in you when you were too young to resist. Now, you get to choose something different. You get to trust that your actions speak for themselves. You get to believe that misunderstandings do not define you. You get to practice speaking without fear. You get to let your presence be enough. You get to release the need to defend your existence. You are not alive to be perfect. You are alive to be human. And humans do not need to explain everything to deserve peace.